The Philadelphia Eagles wasted no time once the season came to an end, and the decision that followed the playoff loss made it clear that changes were inevitable. After falling short against San Francisco in a game that exposed long-standing offensive issues, the organization moved quickly to reset one of the most scrutinized areas of the team. The change at offensive coordinator was not unexpected, but the timing and the context around it spoke volumes about how seriously the Eagles viewed their shortcomings on that side of the ball. The head coach addressed the situation directly, acknowledging how difficult the decision was and taking responsibility for the results. There was respect expressed for the work done over the past years, both on the field and inside the locker room. But the message underneath was unmistakable. When expectations are championship level and the results do not match, accountability has to follow. That accountability landed squarely on the offensive structure, which never found rhythm or consistency when it mattered most. What made this situation even more telling was the reaction, or lack of reaction, from the players. Several offensive voices had the opportunity to strongly defend continuity, yet the tone was cautious and noncommittal. When the franchise quarterback is asked about the future of the offense and chooses restraint instead of endorsement, that silence carries weight. It suggested an understanding that change might be necessary, even if it meant discomfort in the short term. From an organizational standpoint, the frustration was justified. This was not a rebuilding offense or a unit lacking talent. It was one of the most expensive and star-driven groups in the entire league, expected to carry games and relieve pressure from the defense. Instead, it repeatedly stalled against quality opponents. In critical moments, especially late in the season, the offense struggled to reach even modest scoring thresholds, leaving little margin for error and ultimately costing the team a deeper playoff run. The most glaring issue was not effort or talent, but feel. Successful play callers understand flow, momentum, and sequencing. They sense when to be aggressive, when to slow things down, and how to build one concept on top of another. That instinct was missing far too often. While the opening scripts occasionally showed creativity, the offense lost direction once defenses adjusted. The inability to counter those adjustments became a recurring theme, particularly after halftime. Statistics painted a harsh picture. Second-half production dropped dramatically, with long stretches where the offense failed to generate points or sustain drives. Games followed a familiar pattern: strong starts followed by stagnation, predictability, and conservative decisions that allowed opponents back into control. Against playoff-caliber teams, those flaws were magnified, and the margin between winning and losing disappeared quickly. The lack of identity was perhaps the most damaging element of all. Week after week, it was difficult to define what the Eagles' offense truly wanted to be. It was neither consistently aggressive nor reliably methodical. It leaned on isolated concepts rather than a cohesive philosophy. When the postseason arrived, there was hope that experience and talent alone could flip a switch, but without a clear foundation, that switch never existed. Responsibility does not stop with one individual. The decision to elevate an inexperienced play caller for a roster built to contend immediately carried risk, and that risk materialized. Loyalty delayed necessary adjustments, and by the time the season ended, the damage was already done. Still, history shows that the underlying offensive system can succeed when guided by the right voice. Previous seasons proved that with competent direction, the same structure could be explosive, balanced, and efficient. There were moments of effectiveness throughout the year, especially in the red zone, where creativity occasionally surfaced. Certain designs maximized personnel strengths, and individual players continued to produce despite the inconsistency around them. Touchdown totals and yardage milestones reflected raw ability, not cohesion. That contrast highlighted just how much untapped potential remains within the roster. Looking ahead, the situation presents both a challenge and an opportunity. On one hand, the Eagles will once again introduce a new offensive coordinator, continuing a pattern of change that has followed the quarterback throughout his career. On the other, the appeal of this job is undeniable. A coordinator stepping into this role inherits proven playmakers at every key position and a defense capable of keeping games within reach. The constant turnover at offensive coordinator has undeniably shaped the quarterback's journey. Learning new systems, terminology, and philosophies year after year is not conducive to stability. Context matters when evaluating performance, and few quarterbacks have dealt with less continuity during critical development years. That reality adds urgency to the next hire, because getting it wrong again would only deepen the cycle of adjustment and inconsistency. Despite the disappointment of the previous season, this is not an offense devoid of hope. Production still emerged through adversity, and individual excellence never vanished. The challenge now is aligning that talent with a clear vision, modern concepts, and a play caller who understands how to adapt within games. The Eagles do not need to reinvent themselves entirely, but they do need clarity, confidence, and cohesion moving forward. As the search for a new offensive voice begins, the direction the organization chooses will say a lot about how it views the window ahead. This is not a roster built to wait or experiment slowly. The expectations are immediate, and whoever steps into this role will be tasked with unlocking an offense that has already shown flashes but never sustained dominance. The priority now is not just innovation, but adaptability, someone who understands how to build answers within games instead of hoping talent alone can overpower structure. One of the most appealing aspects of this opening is the flexibility it offers. The Eagles are not tied to a single identity, and that can be a strength if handled correctly. There's a quarterback capable of winning from the pocket or with his legs, a running back who can still punish defenses even in a so-called down year, and receivers who command attention every time they step on the field. The pieces are there, but the blueprint must finally match the personnel instead of forcing them into predictable patterns. The failures of the past season were not rooted in effort or preparation, but in stagnation. Defenses quickly learned what was coming, especially on crucial downs, and the lack of counters became impossible to ignore. Third downs turned into obstacles instead of opportunities, and explosive plays dried up when they were needed most. That is why the next coordinator must bring not only creativity, but confidence to stay aggressive even when things get uncomfortable. There is also an internal balance that must be addressed. The offense has leaned conservative at times, favoring simplicity and control, but the modern league demands more. Motion before the snap, layered route concepts, and misdirection are no longer luxuries. They are necessities. Embracing that evolution will require buy-in from everyone involved, including the quarterback, who must be willing to operate outside familiar comfort zones to elevate the unit as a whole. From a league-wide perspective, this job will attract attention. Coaches who aspire to revive their reputations, specialists who thrive in designing passing concepts, and experienced minds looking for a stable contender will all see value here. The challenge will be finding the right fit, someone who complements the head coach rather than clashes with him, while still bringing enough authority to reshape the offense when needed. The frustration of the previous season still lingers, especially after watching opportunities slip away in a conference that was wide open. The defense did its part, often keeping games within reach, only to watch offensive possession stall. That imbalance created pressure and eventually exposed flaws that could no longer be hidden. Fixing the offense is not just about scoring more points. It is about restoring trust across the roster. Despite the instability, individual production tells an important story. Touchdowns were still scored, yards were still gained, and milestones were still reached. Those numbers did not come from a refined system, but from resilience and talent pushing through limitations. That reality should excite whoever takes over next, because improvement does not require a complete teardown, only smarter structure and sharper execution. Continuity remains a looming concern. Yet another new system means another learning curve, another offseason spent adjusting terminology and timing. At some point, that cycle has to end. The goal should be establishing a foundation that lasts beyond a single season, one that allows the quarterback to grow within the same framework instead of restarting every year. Stability can be as valuable as innovation when chasing sustained success. The upcoming season will likely define the trajectory of this era. A well-chosen coordinator could quickly turn frustration into momentum, while another misstep would deepen doubts and intensify scrutiny. That pressure is unavoidable, but it also reflects the opportunity at hand. Few teams offer this level of talent paired with urgency, and fewer still are so clearly a functional offense away from legitimate contention. As conversations continue behind closed doors, the focus must remain on identity, adaptability, and trust. The Eagles do not need to chase trends blindly, but they cannot afford to fall behind the curve either. The next chapter of this offense will be written by how boldly it evolves, how well it learns from recent failures, and how effectively it translates potential into consistent performance on Sundays. The decision to move on from the offensive coordinator is a clear acknowledgement of that urgency. It signals that the organization understands what is at stake and is willing to make difficult choices to protect its future. The next phase will be about aligning philosophy, personnel, and execution in a way that maximizes this roster while it's still in its prime. As the offseason unfolds, every move will be scrutinized through the lens of what went wrong and how to fix it. The offense will remain at the center of that conversation because it is the area with the most room for growth and the highest potential payoff. The foundation is there, the expectations are clear, and the pressure to get it right has never been higher as the team looks toward the next chapter with the understanding that talent alone is never enough without the right direction guiding it forward. There's also a psychological reset that needs to happen within the offensive room. When a unit struggles to respond after halftime and repeatedly fails to close games, doubt can quietly creep in. Confidence erodes when players feel the margin for creativity is shrinking, and that often leads to hesitation on the field. A new coordinator must rebuild that belief, empowering players to execute aggressively without fear of being boxed into overly rigid calls. Another critical element will be communication. Great offenses thrive on clarity, where every player understands not only their assignment, but the intent behind it. Too often last season, the offense looked disconnected, as if each play existed in isolation rather than as part of a broader plan. Establishing a shared vision, one that players can articulate and feel ownership over, could be just as impactful as any schematic adjustment. Ultimately, this moment represents a crossroads. The Eagles can choose to view the past season as a warning sign or as a learning experience that sharpens their edge. Talent alone will not be enough moving forward, but paired with structure, timing, and conviction, it can once again become overwhelming. The next offensive leader will inherit both the scars of failure and the promise of something much bigger if everything finally aligns. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Drake MAYE, the rising star quarterback who has been turning heads with his sharp arm and fearless play, has reportedly stirred the NFL rumor mill after a surprising comment about the Philadelphia Eagles. Sources close to the situation claim that MAYE, known for his candid and often unfiltered opinions, didn't hold back during a recent interview, sparking chatter across social media and sports talk shows. According to insiders, MAYE criticized the Eagles' approach, hinting that their offensive schemes might be overhyped or lacking innovation, a statement that, if confirmed, could shape perceptions about both teams. While the exact wording of his remark hasn't been fully disclosed, those in the know describe it as pointed enough to catch analysts off guard, especially given MAYE's normally composed public persona. The speculation immediately set off debates among fans and commentators, with some suggesting MAYE's remarks signal a deeper confidence in his own abilities and potential leadership. Others wonder if the comments were misinterpreted or taken out of context, a common occurrence in the hypersensitive environment of professional football. What is clear, however, is that MAYE's reaction has amplified existing rumors about potential trades, team dynamics, and strategic rivalries. Pundits are dissecting his statement, analyzing whether it reflects a genuine critique of the Eagles' system or simply a provocative way to assert himself in a league crowded with talented quarterbacks. While no official response has come from the Eagles organization, insiders speculate that team executives are quietly monitoring the situation. Some believe Maye's comments could influence the way rival teams prepare for matchups, especially if they see his criticism as a window into his mindset. Analysts are also noting that young quarterbacks like Maye often make waves off the field, and this could be part of a broader strategy to position himself as a fearless competitor willing to speak out. Whether this sparks a lasting rivalry or fades as just another headline in a fast-moving sports cycle remains to be seen. One thing is certain, Drake Maye's voice is making waves, and the Eagles, along with the entire league, are listening closely. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.